Hello and welcome to the Inside Elland Road Podcast. Graham, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Enjoying a week off.
I wish I could say I'm doing well, but I think I finally succumbed to the multiple viruses which are going around. As you know, it won't surprise anyone, but I've backed my immune system to get a result this winter. But unfortunately, we have been defeated. I'm a bit under the weather. My little boy's off nursery as well. So it's been challenging. But if one thing's been getting me through, it's Leeds United. Should we just? I don't even know where to start with Liverpool. In fact, we could probably start in the second half because the first half was just. I can't think of a game of football which had as bad a first half and as good a second half.
I think we should start with a fairly defining moment for the podcast, which I think sums up you, me, our relationship, and Leeds United in maybe just a couple of seconds. It was a moment in the second half where I turned to you and said, where are the goals coming from? And you went, those three there, and pointed to Aronson, Gnonto, and who was coming on as well? Nmecha. You pointed to the three substitutes who were getting their final instructions from Farke. And lo and behold, Aronson plays a part in setting up a goal. Gnonto wins a penalty, and Nmecha scores a brilliant late equaliser. And what a game! What a game of football! In fact, what a last fortnight it's been. You know, you go back to the Man City game. Unbelievable second half. Didn't get anything from it, but we felt they could take real confidence from it. Went into Chelsea. I didn't give them a chance. You obviously predicted the score exactly right, and they won 3-1 against all the odds. And then Liverpool, you know, where we thought a draw, you know, I predicted a draw. We thought a draw would be a great result. And yet, you know, 2-0 down, you think in the second half as well, 2-0 down 5-10 minutes into the second half, you're thinking there's no way here. This is just mountains to climb, plural. And somehow they come out of that game with a point, and 4 points from those three games is absolutely remarkable, really. A huge turnaround and so much fun as well. Like, that's the thing for me. This hasn't been grim, clinging on by your fingernails, you know, scoring a scruffy goal and then hanging on and defending for your life and clearing the ball off the line. They've scored some really nice goals and they've had some really nice moments, and they've created a hell of a lot of chaos in the last three games. And I would like to see a lot more of it.
Yeah, we talked about turning points, and I think you'd said if they got a result in Man City, that would be a turning point you could base the rest of the season on. But I still think that second half feels like quite a pivotal turning point in the season. The performance that second half and the two performances after, I mean, even if you take the first half into account, we beat those three sides 8-7, which is incredible, which almost no one outside of everyone in the room with me now would have believed in you know, prior to those games. And it's just, there's a danger of falling into there wasn't a championship great. You know, we used to win a lot and the Premier League's this awful place. But it is a reminder that the Premier League is the best league when you're in there and you're competitive. And it gives you moments where you can beat the World Club champions and you can, you know, bloody the nose of one of the best managers in football history. And then you can equalise in the last minute against the defending champions in an unbelievable game. And I'm glad we're here. And it seems like we finally believe we belong here in some ways with those results, because look, I've always had hope, but you know, there is the reality was starting to seep in with those results before that it was looking difficult, but there's a whole new feeling around the club. I don't know if you felt that from your role, but just the fans I see and me, it's just so happy. These are the moments I want to enjoy. These are the moments why I'm a fan. I loved it. That Nmecha goal was just such a great moment.
Yeah. A lot of people, like, they talk about when they go into the Premier League as a promoted side, you know, you want to go up against the best teams and you want to see some of the best players. I don't think anyone at Elland Road, certainly not of a Leeds persuasion, went to the stadium hoping to see Mo Salah play and maybe score a nice goal. What Leeds United fans want is to go into the Premier League and to punch upwards and to beat up some really big teams and to have the world's best players having meltdowns in the mix zone in the West Stand. That is why Leeds are in the Premier League. To me, it's to actually create chaos and to disrupt the order and to leave some bloody noses and to actually enjoy it. And this season so far, we talked earlier, kind of when we got to the 10-game mark, about how there was some kind of grim satisfaction to be taken from some of the performances and being difficult to beat at times and all of that. But the entertainment value in the last 3 games, this is not Route 1, Wimbledon in the late 80s, early 90s stuff. They are going direct, but they're also playing some really nice football. And the irony of it all is that we were screaming for them to be more direct, more aerial, more physical, play off Calvert-Lewin, and then Farke switches it back in the second half and goes to something a lot more kind of familiar based on the last 2 seasons. And they play some really pretty football. Brendan Aronson, that little passing move prior to Stack's goal was fantastic. And what was really interesting was he had the ball and he's kind of doing that thing where he's jinking on the ball and you're thinking, okay, now release, Brendan. Release the ball, please, Brendan. Please don't lose the ball here, Brendan, for the love of all that's wonderful. Like he did, in the Villa game, wasn't it? And he held on to the very last second, and then he released the ball with perfect timing. He collects it again from Gnonto, was it? Gnonto or Goodmanson, whoever was out there. And then he just finds this lovely pass into the feet of Stack. That's everything we want from Brendan Aronson that I think a lot of the time has been missing, that he's either got the timing wrong and not released the pass at the right minute, or he's just been too frantic, and he's taken one touch too many or one turn too many and he's lost the ball. That was really lovely, simplistic football. And then Stack obviously takes a wonderful touch inside and bang, it's a goal. But those substitutions, they changed the game completely. And here's something I read on the BBC website from a Brentford fan called Peter. Keith Andrews is going to get found out. Speaks a good game, but he sets his team up in a self-defeating format, and he doesn't have Frank, as in Thomas Frank's, ability to change things around. We're in for a long and tough season, and I don't think he will be here at the end. You could pretty much have transposed Daniel Farke's name in there and another manager, Emery or Dyche or someone like that, because it seemed to a lot of people that Daniel Farke couldn't change a game, and he was setting up in a self-defeating manner, and other managers were getting the better of him with their substitutions. And yet here was a Premier League game against the defending champions in which Daniel Farke changed the game, just like he changed the Man City game at halftime. He didn't get the win on that occasion or any points, but this switch in formation, this change up in approach, and the results he's had over the last week, is that not everything that people have been wanting to see from him and everything that everyone's been saying he's not capable of doing? It's a small sample size. One swallow or 3 swallows don't make a summer, but it's a pretty good step in the right direction, isn't it?
100%. Celebrate Christmas in style at Uyare. Rooftop views, carol-inspired feasts, and festive cocktails, creating Leeds' most unforgettable holiday atmosphere. And you're right in terms of the criticisms that were aimed at him. It was like there was an answer for all of them in those 3 games. And maybe that's him learning and adapting himself. He did say that this is a system we had worked on, the 3 at the back, and it's not like they've just decided it at half time, but we hadn't seen it yet. So him deploying it shows a level of adaptability that we haven't seen so far this season. And in terms of the substitutions, one thing I really liked about that Aronson move as well was that he came on the right. So he's been brave enough to kind of like drift on the left, and all the subs seem to be brave. And the way Gnonto took that ball on and immediately drove into the box and won a penalty, and Tanaka just strikes me as a brave human being anyway, and he always seems to want the ball and show for it. And it's really nice to see, you know, because you can go hiding when you're 2-0 down against the champions and maybe just play the safe passes. So it shows that, I don't know, it shows that they're playing for Farke. It shows they're playing for the club. And yeah, he did answer a lot of critics this week. But you are right, it is a sample size, but it's a hard sample size. But then I would caveat that with, there were always kind of teams which are kind of anomalies. Brighton have been like this in previous seasons, where the way they play suits playing against bigger teams, and then when they come against teams around them in the league, they would struggle. So we've done better than anyone expected, except for myself. You know, we're 5 points fewer than I was expecting in that run, but I'll take the 4. And now we do hit a run of games where they are. Actually, they're not all around us. So I look at Crystal. Every time we seem to play teams at home, they all seem to be in the top 4. Like Crystal Palace in the top 4 now. So I don't know if it's just, unlucky. But we're playing a run of teams now where perhaps points are a bit more expected, and that poses a different challenge. But let's go back to Liverpool briefly then, right? So first half, I think we can write off, except to say that the 5-3-2 we saw against Chelsea wasn't working the same way. Whether that was because it's so hard to put that much energy in as we put into the Chelsea game, especially after the City second half. It could be as simple as Nmecha being out and Van Dijk being really good in the air and really physical. And Nmecha and Calvert-Lewin was contesting well with him, but he's excellent. You know, he's so good at winning that first ball in the air. Yeah. And then it's harder to build off. So maybe there's a combination of those things meant it wasn't as effective, but it wasn't as effective. And then 5 minutes into the second half, we're 2-0 down with a glaring error from Rodon, and then maybe shared errors around a bit for the second goal. And then it's like 60 minutes, we're 2-0 down, and then he makes the changes and goes back to that 4-2-3-1, where we like to have the ball a little bit more, and Liverpool allowed us that a little bit, but we were brave, went 2-2, and then that was quite a crucial period, right? The 2-2, and you were in the press with Farke after, right? And he spoke about, because when it did go 3-2, immediately we all noticed he was remonstrating with someone. He was absolutely livid with something that had gone on for that third goal.
Yeah, Tanaka was outed by Farke because he stepped out of the block, stepped out of the shape, and the kind of went rogue in the pressing system, left a gap, and Liverpool just sliced straight through. I mean, Gravenberch, wasn't it, with a really good ball? Who dummied it? Who stepped over
McAllister?
the ball?
I think McAllister ran over it and then it went through to Szoboszlai. Yeah,
and
I think
Szoboszlai
it was
Szoboszlai with just a lovely finish. I tried to finish one like that on Monday night and failed. I put it past the far post, which is unlike me actually, but fair play to Szoboszlai because it's a difficult one. And when that goes in as well, you think, God, you've done. For me, it was like the first half, all their hard work in staying 0-0. Yeah, Liverpool had hit the bar. They'd had a couple of moments, but Okafor should have scored as well. You know, in the second minute, great chance. He's got to hit the target from there. I wouldn't, because it would have been on my left. I'd have been useless. I'd have had to cut back onto my right, and the defender would have got back in. But then you throw away all your hard work with this, such an uncharacteristic. That is just not a Joe Rodon pass. He does not do that, which is why he's been so lauded and why he started, 101 consecutive league games for Leeds, which is absolutely remarkable feat. Remarkable to have that level of availability for a man who routinely gets elbowed, headbutted, and kicked in the face as well. But that pass was a kind of an aberration. You know, it was his brain has done a funny thing there, and he's given the ball away. And you think, all your hard work, you know, you want them to score a worldie if they're going to go ahead. You want it to be a goal where you think, God, there's nothing anyone could have done about that. That's just top class Premier League champions quality. But they've given away a really soft goal. The second goal, I think, is equally soft. You know, Pascal, just send it straight down. Well, actually, it starts from the keeper, doesn't it? He should have sent it, first of all. He doesn't. Pascal doesn't send it. He tries to give it to Goodmanson, who's immediately under pressure. Just wasn't the right time to play. And then Bradley gets it. And when the world's best footballer gets the ball in that position, he's going to deliver qualities and he's going to deliver something good. The cross is perfect, and the big man has got up. Biol hasn't quite switched on to the fact that he's still there from the penalty shot, because I think Biol was trying to escape the crime scene, to use Arne Slot's phraseology. And then he's tucked it away for 2-0. And at that point, you just think, there's no way a team like Liverpool with Van Dijk on the pitch, with Gravenberch, are going to let Leeds back into this. It was just one of the most impressive comebacks I think I've seen from that point. And then, they threw it away again, didn't they, by giving away the third goal. And you think, well, there's definitely no way now. But actually, it was different for that goal, because Elland Road was still very much in its kind of, we're in this game. We're in this kind of atmosphere. And the Leeds were a bit more ominous, I think, second half. And it did feel like something was building. And they kept going. Do you know what I picked out? I was watching Match of the Day with one of the kids, and I was talking to him about short corners and like when teams do it. And sometimes you think, oh, don't do it now. You've got all the big men up, and sometimes it is the right time. And Anton Stack went and got the ball. Willy Gnonto was around him for the corner that Tanaka scored from, and Stack thought about taking it short, like the previous one that had won a corner. And I remember at the time thinking, no, don't do that. Don't go short this time. Get it in the box. And thank God he did, because Calvert-Lewin and someone else might have been Rodon, caused a bit of chaos in the box. And then Tanaka, he seems to have this knack, doesn't he, of popping up in the right place. Who was it? He got the guided that lovely back post header at Sheffield United away last season. He guides that really, really nice cushioned, like most composed back post header you've ever seen. Obviously, he comes up with an unreal strike against Chelsea, and then makes it 2 goals in 2 games with a good finish at the back post. That was Elland Road for me. That's like top 5 Elland Road for me in the 6.5 years I've been covering this club. It was absolutely wild. And just the perfect synergy of a team fighting for something, but fighting with some end product, not fighting fruitlessly, but fighting and gaining ground, and then clawing back a point, and a crowd that was just so into it. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite moments, I think, at Elland Road in recent history. And there'll be some great ones. I think the last season, the Stroik 2-1, I thought was brilliant against Sunderland. But that being against Liverpool, and I know they've been wobbly, but I did think that was a better Liverpool than they had been in recent weeks. It was more composed. Obviously, they beat Inter Milan 1-0 away last night. And that's what you dream of as a kid, isn't it? They've got a last-minute goal which matters, and it really mattered. And shout out to Stack. I thought he was absolutely excellent in that game, and he's got a goal and assist at the end, doesn't he? And does that count as an assist actually? Because I guess it came through a little bit, but it was a good ball in. There's a good fan clip I saw on Twitter of someone who's like right behind him on the corner, and not that I'm advocating filming at the football, because I always believe you should be present and watch it yourself. But anyway, it's a great angle, and it's a really good ball in. It's a really good ball in. Exactly what you want at that moment. Don't try and do anything silly with like a short corner. Get it in the mixer. It's the last few seconds of the game. But actually, not really. There was a moment after where we were debating whether they go for it or not, because they got that throw in right at the end, didn't they? And they seemed to say, let's be a bit more sensible here, because maybe they were a bit naive and gung-ho at 2-2, and they went 3-2, and they thought, let's just keep hold of the ball. Where I was thinking, get it in the mixer. Get it on Bornau's head, or try and win it. But no, it was amazing. And there was a lad who came up to you at the end of the game, I think got a photo of you at the Chelsea game. He'd come over from Japan for these 2 games. And we were saying Carlsberg don't pick better trips to see Tanaka against Chelsea, but I think they've already topped it with that one against Liverpool. That cameo is just unbelievable.
Unreal. I'm not sure very many people have made better travel-related decisions than that lad's decision to part with however many of your English pounds it was to fly over and stay over here to see those 2 games. Because, as much as you would say, oh, Chelsea and Liverpool, those are great games to go to, in the back of your head, you're thinking, you're probably going to Elland Road to watch Leeds United get duffed twice, in the space of a week. Well, obviously you're not. When I say you, from now on, take it that I mean normal people rather than yourself, right? So normal people are thinking, God, you're going over there and you're going to see them get duffed twice, but you'll see some good footballers. But what he saw was a transformation, in atmosphere, in morale, in confidence around the club. A manager that, I wrote in my verdict, this was a week that could have ended him. Genuinely could have ended Daniel Farke. For all that 49ers will say, we've always had faith in our manager. We're back in our manager. We're back in the plan. They definitely went into these three games knowing that had he lost the crowd, had he lost all three, had they been battered in all three, then they go into this Brentford game and he is like, if he had not been sacked, then defeat against Brentford would surely have done it because of the length of the losing streak and because of what all those losses would have meant for public confidence in him. But instead, he's got this team that is fighting tooth and nail for him. He's just given Elland Road, he's given an away end at Man City something to be proud of and something to cheer, which is in direct contrast to like Forest, for example, away at Forest. And then he's given Elland Road 2 of the great nights, one of the great weeks in a manager's tenure, really. Certainly in his tenure. What a turnaround. So you've got to enjoy moments like we can definitely kind of talk about what comes next and how they have to follow it up. And at Brentford will be really interesting because it's not a team that like a Man City, like a Chelsea, like a Liverpool. So there's a different expectation and what it means to play against opposition or in and around you and how Farke approaches that. We can talk about all of that. But at the same time, you have to just applaud what you've seen in the last 3 games and you have to bask in it a little bit, because if you can't enjoy this now without thinking, well, we're still not safe and we need this, we need these points for the matches coming up and I'm still not sure about Farke. If you can't enjoy these moments, you won't ever enjoy it, because football is not perfect and great moments don't last very long. So I would say just keep watching the highlights of these games as long as you possibly can, because to be there was a privilege.
Book your Christmas party at Uyare. Skyline dining, bold South Indian flavours, and rooftop elegance guarantee a festive season to remember. Yeah, I consciously try and enjoy these moments now, because particularly the modern world with the social media side of it, it's always looking ahead and looking at the next thing. So I've tried to constantly just enjoy this moment and not think too much about what's on the horizon, because you're right, this is why I'm a fan. And this is the moments I enjoy, and I've tried to bask in it. And, I was saying I wasn't enjoying Act 2 of this story very much, but I never doubt Leeds United screenwriters for long, because they can create some amazing moments and turning points where almost none of us could see anything happen. And it's a bit like that moment in Lord of the Rings where hope seems lost at Helm's Deep, and Gandalf, in our world, our wizard's Tanaka, right at the dawning of the sun, comes over the ridge.
Look to the east.
Yeah,
that's what Gandalf said. Look to the far east. And there's our Tanaka.
Put the ball to the east from the corner, and there's Tanaka. But now is the time, I guess, to look ahead, because the Brentford game is on the horizon. And I was looking into this game, right? And do you know that Spider-Man meme where it's Spider-Man looking at himself? Yeah. When I was looking at them, and it's like their home form, their kind of possession stats, the style that they can play and they can adapt a little bit. They are, and actually they're probably further along the line than we are in terms of that respect. Although my question mark is still around the manager. I know he's had an okay start, but there's a bit of an illusion that these fixtures are easier, but Brentford, I think I loaded it up earlier on the home form, are 4th in the Premier League table for home form, and Palace are 1st in the Premier League table for away form. So although you think, these are easy fixtures, they're actually not. Like, Brentford away is not an easy fixture, and it seems like Palace away isn't. Although the caveat is Palace, I think their manager said he's going to make 11 changes because they've got a crazy schedule at the moment in terms of cup football and Europe. Around our game, so that plays in our favour. But this is a big test. We've been saying that the past few weeks. But because this is Brentford, this isn't Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool. I remember my mate Stevie, who played for the Rhinos. Sometimes they would win a huge game away at Wigan, or they win the Challenge Cup final, and then they'd slip up at Widnes or somewhere. And I would say to him, like, well, where did that come from? And he'd be like, consciously, you're still trying as hard as you can in the game, but it's like there's something about the occasion which allows you to draw upon those extra reserves, which you sometimes can't tap into in other moments. So those big illustrious games where the crowd's on your side, maybe you can find those extra reserves, but Brentford away isn't the game you all dream of, especially Leeds fans of our record in London. So this is this test. This is difficult. This is a difficult game, and they're a difficult opponent. They're physical. They're good on set pieces, which they've got to be, right? Because they've got a set piece coach in charge. They pose a lot of problems to us, and some of the things we would like to do, I think they're quite well suited for. And actually, if we go back to the possession base that Farke likes, that 4-2-3-1, I don't know if it plays into their hands, because I know under Frank, they were quite happy to let teams have the ball and go, okay, as soon as we get it, we're going to go direct and we're going to cause problems for you. I think it is a difficult fixture.
Yeah, it definitely is. Famous rugby league friends. So I can't let. There's no way I can let you away with that. You look at their results at home, right? They beat Villa 1-0. They drew with Chelsea. They beat Man United 3-1. They beat Liverpool 3-2. They beat Newcastle 3-1. They beat Burnley 3-1. They score goals at home, and they win games at home. And they're in like a really nice routine at the Lego Stadium. And I guess for Leeds, you might look at this and say, this is a team that we should be winning against. Away from home in the Premier League, I think if you get away with a point, you can be very, very happy. And I would be very, very happy with a point, I think, against Brentford, given who's gone there and not won, and not got a point. And the style is going to be really, really interesting. Farke's approach will be really interesting, because there is a little part of me that wonders, when he comes up against a team, when he thinks we can dominate possession, is he going to lean back into his natural inclination to want to have the ball and play with the ball, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, whatever it is. But I just don't think you can go away from what's been so successful in the last few games. You know that the fans love it. You know that it suits the players you've got. If you've got Nmecha back, all the better. Just go and create chaos, and do what Forest did to Leeds. Just go direct, but go direct better than they do it, and impose your will on them. I think Leeds have a lot to be confident about at the minute, and they've got momentum going into this game. Whereas Brentford, whilst they are at home, they come into it on the back of 2 defeats in North London, the second of which was particularly damaging, I think, for morale and kind of at least the fan kind of feeling around the club, because I think it felt to a lot of them that Thomas Frank really has their number, and he knows their players, and they're a kind of pale imitation of themselves, I think, against Spurs. So they're not in a great moment, but they are coming back home. It's a really fascinating one, and one that, like I said, I'd probably be more than happy to take a point from.
No deal for me, Mr. Banker. I'm carried on, hoping for that 3 points in the next box. No, I mean, it is a good point. I completely agree. Looking at their results and at home, their home results, similarly to us, again, we're good at home and we're struggling away. So it is a good point. Nmecha back is almost a key for me, because I can imagine they'll put who played centre back for that? Collins, I think, will probably be there, who they'll put on Nmecha and Calvert-Lewin to contest those kind of long aerial balls. And I think we saw, not that Okafor won't work. I think you can't just write things off after a half or a game of football. They're like, oh no, we need to have, like early on, Okafor could have scored. And actually, a crucial moment right at the start of the second half, I think Nmecha and Calvert-Lewin wins a really fair flick on, and Okafor's almost one-on-one with a defender, and ref pulls it back for a nonsense. It was never a foul. And then they score a few minutes later. But So Okafor didn't cover himself in glory, but he did have some moments. I don't want to write him off as a forward just because he had one bad game, because he came on against Chelsea and changed it in that same role. So, but Nmecha back, I think it gives you two options you can go long to, a bit more reliable. So if he was back, I would still quite like to do that 5-3-2 system, because if you do go back to the possession base, I think that's what they're quite used to playing against. And I wouldn't want to play into their hands. So if we could go direct and physical and try and do what they do, but do it better. And one area of the pitch I actually do think we are better is I really, really like the midfield three that are developing. I know Tanaka came off the bench, but Tanaka, Stack and Ampadu, I really like the profiles, the blend. And it reminds me a bit of, I've always liked that Croatia football team over the past few tournaments. And they basically had three outstanding central midfielders, and the rest of the team were okay. There were some good players in different departments, but having those three central midfielders got them really far in major tournaments. And I think those three in midfield can take us very far. And with Longstaff to come into it and Gruev's a fine deputy as the fifth choice. But I think we're better than them there. And I think if we can make it physical and dominate that part of the pitch, we can get some joy.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that you'll be right that it'll be Collins that goes up against Calvert-Lewin. It might be, because he has got a fair bit of height, doesn't he? But looking at their other centre-back, Vandenberg, he's winning 3.8 aerial battles per 90, so he's leading the team in that. Collins is winning 2.3. So if he's doing that well in the air, maybe it'll be him that goes up against Calvert-Lewin. But I do like the idea. I really like the idea of going two up top, away from home, going a bit more direct, perhaps because you're away, and almost saying to them, "All right, come on, you try and have the ball." No, I don't believe in giving the ball away to be in a better area, as a former Leeds United manager seemed to suggest at one point. I had a dream about him actually this week, or a dream that he made a cameo in, and he said to me, "You can't analyze a game from a team sheet, Graham," and I'm still trying to work out what that means. I'm still trying to work out some various things meant that he said during his time at Leeds, but I like the idea of going two up top against them, making it maybe a bit attritional, making it a bit of an arm wrestle, and giving their central defenders a lot to think about. Interestingly, on whoscored.com, where it lists their strengths and weaknesses, under strengths, it's just got football. No, it's got under weaknesses, it's got keeping possession, defending against long shots, calling out Tanaka, protecting a lead, which we hope they won't have at any stage, and defending against attacks down the wings. So maybe this is where Bogle and Goodmanson can really step up and give them some problems. I mean, it would be Bogle up against Ayer, would it? Yeah, it would. Oh, I would fancy Bogle to be able to get at him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it's worth saying that on that left-hand side, Shardo, who's a very kind of a good player, lots of energy, he's suspended for this game. So I don't know if that means Lewis Potter might come in. Who he's decent defensively, I think, on that side. But yeah, I really like Bogle. I think, and that 5-3-2 system, and we say Bogle, Goodmanson, you get at them as often as you can. And we'll also go physical, occupy their centre backs, and I think our midfielders can win that battle. That is my strategy. I don't think it's perfect. I think they're quite suited to the set piece, direct play as well. So
yeah,
it's a tough game. They are a tough matchup, but I'm still not sure about the manager. He's done better than I've expected, but he is inexperienced. But how much of this is carrying on from the work, because Frank's been there for ages, and there's loads of systems better in place, and obviously Andrews has been a part of that. But yeah, I'm still not convinced yet. It's too small a sample size to say if he's good or not.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was a bold move, putting a set piece coach in charge. And I've heard some kind of people around the game talking kind of quite skeptically about whether or not he would have it as an overall manager. I mean, as a rookie, his results so far at home have been absolutely superb, but it's on the road, obviously, that they've struggled. And, like you said, there's a lot of parallels to draw between the two sides. But one side has a little bit more momentum than the other right now. But it's so fascinating to me how Leeds United's performance levels against the last three will translate to a game against a side in and around them. I'd say it's a must-not lose game. It's not a must. It's not a must-win game because you beat Chelsea and you drew with Liverpool. That kind of takes the pressure off, and Leeds no longer go into this game thinking we absolutely need 3 points here because there's a danger of us being cut adrift and being left below the line. They're above the line now and back to the point average where they need to be, and they're absolutely full of confidence. So I'm really hoping Nmecha is fit again, because I definitely, again, small, tiny sample size, but I much preferred the look of him and Calvert-Lewin up top as a starting pair with Okafor to come off the bench. But the last few weeks have really raised some interesting selection kind of points and probably put in the minds of a few players, I'm going to have to be really good in training to get into this team. And if I do get on the pitch, I'm going to have to really make my time work, because with this system, it would need a change really to bring Gnonto into it, because I don't think you're playing Gnonto as a second striker. I don't think he's your first choice sub off the bench as a second striker. Peru's probably picked his ears up and thought, oh, there's chances for me here, because if he's playing two up top, then I'm one step closer to the team than I was when he was playing one up top. But for the wingers, like Dan James and that, I know that playing right now is not on the agenda for James. But for the wingers, it puts a question mark as to how much time they're actually going to get on the pitch if he persists with a system that so far looks to suit the team better than the one that preceded it.
Yeah, but going back to that, was it Southgate or Arteta? And it's one of those cringy things. But if you can make the players believe that they're not substitutes, they're finishers, and that there's ways of changing games mid-game, and that you will play loads of parts in it. And look, for what it's worth, I actually think he will do the 4-3-3, and I have a feeling that if he does do that, I would like to see Gnonto start, because I think he's earned it off that cameo, and he's completely fit now. And I think he might start Gnonto left, Aronson right, is what I'm thinking. Would be my guess that he'll do. But I hope he does the 5-3-2, and I hope Nmecha's fit. Maybe Nmecha, if I knew Nmecha wasn't fit, maybe I wouldn't opt for that formation. I'd probably have Okafor left and Gnonto right. But anyway.
But what's really interesting about that is that if we're trying to work it out and we're kind of trying to base it on what we think Farke will do, there's now this level of uncertainty where there perhaps was a predictability before, that now opponents, Brentford are thinking, who's he going to start up top? Is he going to have two up top? Is he going to go with the players who finished the game so strongly, or is he going to go with the players that started the game against Liverpool and were 0-0 at half time? And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing from a Leeds United point of view, because you want to keep the opponent guessing to the very last minute. You want to almost disrupt their preparations or make their preparations harder, because nobody knows what it is you're going to do. And now that he has two systems, that he has had some success with both. You think back to Newcastle at home, Everton, some of the performances we saw with a 4-3-3. It's not like it wasn't working entirely. It's just that away from home, there were some games where it really didn't work. So he's got that system, and he's now got this new system as well. And I just think it's all the better for Daniel Farke and Leeds United when it comes to the opposition, that they don't know what you're going to do.
It is. And I don't think it's conclusive which one he should do, which again means it's going to be quite hard to analyze from their perspective. But right, let's go for some predictions. What are you predicting will happen, Graham? Just want to caveat off the back of the second half of Man City beating Chelsea and the Liverpool game, the amazing momentum we've got there, two back-to-back defeats. Graham Smith is predicting
a draw. I'm going to go. I'm going to say 1-1. I'm going to say it's an attritional game, not one for the neutral. And who do I think is going to score a goal? I wonder if we might see a wing-back score a goal, which would be a fine thing indeed. But yeah, I'm going to go for a draw. Anything more than that, phenomenal. They can party all the way back up the road, and I'd give them an extra day for their Christmas party if they got a win there, because very few teams win there this season, and it would be remarkable, and they would be bouncing into Christmas in that Palace game. So a win would be phenomenal, but I would take a draw 100%.
Reserve your festive table at www.uyara.co.uk, where Christmas sparkle meets South Indian soul on Leeds' most sophisticated rooftop terrace. I'm going to go for a win.
Shock.
Gone to my head. I think I can see your prediction coming true, but off the back of this week, I'm not going to predict anything other than a Leeds United win. I think, like I said, I think our midfield three can get the better of them. I really like what I'm seeing from them, and they're starting to develop a bit of a relationship. I think Stack's going to have a really big game. I really do. I think he's really settling in, and he had a bit of a kind of wobble as he was establishing himself in the Premier League, and maybe didn't quite light up as quickly as we thought from some of those pre-season games. I don't know how it will happen, but I think he'll be instrumental, and I think it will be a 2-1 Leeds United away win, and we will be buzzing going into the Christmas period. And that Palace and Sunderland game are a lot easier than this, I think, because of Palace's schedule and Sunderland's AFCON. I'm predicting they're going to drop down the table massively. So I'm still not ruling them out for relegation, as crazy as that sounds. But yeah, that's it. 2-1 Leeds win away at Brentford.
Right now, the relegation candidates, I mean, it would not take a brave man to back Wolves for the drop right now. I think they are sticking two hands in the air and saying, yes, please, we'd love some time in the Championship.
Burnley, what do you think the Wolves me is doing? The Wolverhampton Chris O'Connor, what's he saying right now?
He's struggling. He's really struggling.
He's finding it tough.
He's finding it really, really hard. He's choking on his words every time he predicts a victory. It's kind of catching in his throat. And the margin of victory that he predicts is getting smaller and smaller every week. Yeah, Burnley looking a bit of bother as well, don't they? They've lost a few on the bounce now. And Scotty Boy Parker, football terrorist, it feels like his crimes are catching up with him. So those two, and then one other. And based on the last few games, right, there's no reason to think that Leeds cannot get that golden, glorious place right above the dotted line this season if they can do that against those teams, because they've proven that they can be more than competitive against the best. So this is another chance to prove it, isn't it? But who for that last spot then for you? Who else goes down? Because obviously you're not predicting Leeds to go down.
I think last time I said it was between Brentford, Fulham, West Ham, us, Sunderland. I think Forest, just because the manager and the squad, I think they'll have enough. I know Sunderland seem like they've got enough points, and they have got a lot, but things could change quickly. It's very congested. I think I'd just say West Ham. I think what I saw in their midfield in our game and some of the body language, and I know they've got quality, but they're always one bad result away from fans turning again and it getting toxic, and it's very hard to constantly play amidst that. So I have a feeling maybe this season they get found out, but it looks like it's going to be a higher points total than it has been in previous seasons. So, and these things can change in January, but right now I probably would say just West Ham. I think they'll go down, but I think it will be quite close.
The Premier League is delivering in a way that maybe we weren't expecting it to. It feels like the natural order is being disrupted a little bit, and that newly promoted teams, at least two of them, have given themselves a bit of a chance at actually sticking this year. So it would be nice to see a couple of the established lot go down. But I also am enjoying the fact that you can't really predict what's going to happen in a game. Yes, Arsenal are very good. Manchester City, obviously, still very good. But you look at the top end of the table, and it does not have a look that you would have anticipated, does it? You know, Villa in third, Palace in fourth, Chelsea down in fifth, Manchester United, Everton in seventh somehow, Brighton eighth, Sunderland ninth, Liverpool 10th. Things that we did not think we would see this season. So maybe the Premier League is not as dead as we maybe the reports of its demise have been greatly exaggerated.
How did Everton get 7th? I swear they lost 4-0 like a week ago to Newcastle. It's a strange season. It seems like 1 or 2. If you get into that pack, that's what I'm kind of looking at for Leeds. If you can just catch up with that pack, and beating Brentford obviously drags them into the lower end. But that pack, essentially, if you get 2 good results, you're Champions League. 2 bad results, you're 15th or whatever it is. It's very congested there. Okay, Graham, any other businesses? I just wanted to give a shout out to the Outside Elland Road podcast. They've had some really good episodes recently, and quite a few debates back and forth about Farke with some differing fan voices on there. So they've got an episode out this week. It should be on our YouTube channel when you hear this, so go check that out. And also a thank you to everyone who voted for the What's on Stage Awards. Through It All Together has been nominated for Best New Play, and Best Regional Productions. It's up for 2 awards, along with 6 other plays. I think it goes to another round of voting, but I'm not sure. But if it does so, I'll let you know. So if you did vote and you came to see it, it'd be great to get your vote again. But yeah, thanks to everyone who voted for that. It means a lot to myself, obviously, for a number of reasons. I'm off to Ireland next week to see my gran, who lives with dementia, is a big inspiration for that show. And there's loads of special people who played a part in making that show happen. So thank you to everyone for that. And it's been really cool to get nominated.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic news. Well done. I suspect when my nomination arrived, the What's On awards people turned to each other and said, well, that's Graham Smith saying it. So maybe a bit of inevitability there, but it is excellent news. Something else that we didn't talk about that was excellent. I went to the Howard Wilkinson lunch at Elland Road in the High Sense Lounge last week, which is really nice, actually. Been done out this season, brand new. And it was the organisers who are trying to fundraise for a statue for Wilco. And it was a really, really lovely event. They had lots of legends there. And I think my favourite bits were probably Mel Sterland saying how he made Lee Chapman a millionaire and still hasn't had a pint off him for it. And Gordon Strachan's story about how when he was snorkeling in Thailand and in his peripheral vision, this great big white thing started floating towards him and he thought it was maybe a shark or a giant fish. And it was a Leeds fan. And when he popped his head up, the Leeds fan said, all right, wee man, gave him the Leeds salute and then swam off again.
Amazing.
Proving that you are never more than 5 feet away from a Leeds United fan. In fact, I was at a whiskey tasting this week, and the guy 2 to my left during the whiskey tasting, my mate was showing me what the scores were, and I said, I want to see who scored for Hull to see if it was Joffy, and he kind of clocked me, and then we had a little chat. He was a Leeds fan, writes for Square Ball. Actually, you are everywhere. You pervade every area of society. It's almost an invasive species is the only way I think you can describe it. But yeah, that Howard Wilkins event was absolutely fantastic. I'm pretty sure it raised a lot of money. Somebody bid in an auction, I don't know, something like, was it 1,800 quid? More than that maybe, for Gary McAllister's Charity Shield game worn shirt. Somebody bid a few hundred for a Gnonto game worn from this season. And all the money, of course, is going to get this statue for the last Englishman to win the Premier League as a manager. So that was really, really great. Really enjoyed that.
Amazing. Let's hope that happens. Okay, everyone. We'll check in again next week. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you can all dodge the viruses that are going around at the moment. And we'll speak soon.
Cheers.